In cutting this 6 pieces skirt, we'll first of all mark our waistline. After marking our waistline, we'll go on to mark our hip and our knee length. Then at the waistline, we measured 4 inches. Then at the hip, we measured 4.5 inches. Then the knee length is also 4 inches. So the down part, which is the flip part, we measured 12 inches, as you can see on the screen. Then we're going to use freehand because what we are cutting here is Senegalese method of sewing 6 pieces. So it's a freehand method. So from the from the waistline down to the inches of the skirt is 46 inches plus 1 inches folding allowance, making it 47 inches. Then there's an error in the marking. I noticed that I formerly marked 28 inches for knee, but it's supposed to be 20 inches, so I corrected it and I had to adjust the this thing the the marking of the hip, the curve of the hip. So using your free hand, you have to connect, make sure that for those people that don't use this thing, they don't use rulers or French curve. So this Senegalese cutting uses free hand. So after marking it, remember that the waistline I used 4 inches, the middle part, which is the hip, I used 4.5 inches. Then the knee length, the knee circumference, I used also 4 inches. Then the down part is 12 inches. So now after marking everything, measuring it out, I'm going to cut it out. That is the center, the the center front of the 6 pieces skirt. It's already cut out. Then I'll use it to cut the two sides of the 6 pieces skirt. Then I will notch the knee length. I will notch the knee length. I will notch the knee. As you can see, I'm setting everything, getting ready to cut out the other two sides of the front of the 6 pieces skirt. So after adjusting it, I'm going to mark it. Remember, this is a freehand, so I'm going to adjust in a triangle form the down part of the 6 pieces to be able to mark the sides of, as you can see on the screen, be able to mark the side of the 6 pieces. So from there, I'm going to input my measurements, my hip measurement, which is 47 inches. I folded the tape into four equal parts. Then I used my free hand to add inches to it. Then my waist measurement, which is 39 inches, I folded it into 4 parts. Then also put my sewing allowance. Then my hip measurement -1. That is what I did there. So as you can see, I'm going to use my hand to connect everything together. I'm sorry if you don't really understand my English. Like, English is not my first language, so I'm learning how to speak it. We are all learners. So yeah, as you can see, it's perfectly well marked out, so I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to cut it out now. This is very easy to do if you follow these steps here. It's a freehand and doesn't really require much calculation. This is Senegalese method or pattern of, this is how they cut their 6 pieces skirts. So, and I've actually learned it, and I found out that it's not that difficult to do. It has to do with constant practice. As you keep on practicing it, you I've already notched the knee points. So as you continue practicing it, you will learn. It's not that difficult, because sometimes people think that things are difficult to do, but it is difficult if you don't do it constantly. But if you keep on practicing it, then it will become part and parcel of you, and it will not be difficult again for you to do. It will just be going freely for you. Then the front part of the 6 pieces, they've all been cut out. The center front and the two sides of the front, they have been cut out. So I'm going to use the cut out ones to cut the back, the front ones to cut the back, which is very easy to do. The only difference there is I'm going to put the zip allowance, and the pleats, the back pleat allowance. That is the only thing I'm going to add there. As you can see, I've already laid it on the lining. I'm using lining to cut this out in case if I make mistake, it will be easy for me to correct it. Instead of cutting directly on the fabric, you can use your gum stay, you can use your lining to cut it. So I'm using my lining to cut it. So the allowance between the back and the front is the zip allowance, and the pleats, the back pleats allowance, there is the opening at the back allowance. Then I've already laid the other two sides beside the center front, as you can see on the video. So I'm going to cut everything out. The only difference between the front cutting and the back cutting, that the back is going to be 4 pieces, because you're still going to cut that